West Ham went into the game under a massive amount of pressure, needing to respond to what was, a shambolic and basically humiliating London derby defeat to Arsenal. Riley, it didn't materialise, did it really, mate? It was, unfortunately, another frustrating afternoon to be a West Ham fan. Lacklustre performance, not a good day, and one that's inevitably piled the pressure on David Moyes. And the players as well. I don't think they can get away from it as well. But obviously, David Moyes is the manager. He's the one who's going to take the brunt of it. Before we talk about David Moyes, mate, let's talk about the game a little bit. Firstly, what were your sort of overall thoughts on it?
Quite a flat performance, really. I think that, after the Arsenal game, you were always going to play a little bit better. I mean, it's impossible, isn't it, really, to do worse than a 6-0 performance. But, I think it would have been nice to see us come out with a bit of grit, come out with the idea that we wanted to make amends. And it didn't really look like we wanted to make amends for the Arsenal defeat. It just looked like another game in the Premier League. The players didn't exactly give me that sense of, this is an apology for the Arsenal game that was at home, that we lost 6-0 to against London rivals and allowed Declan Rice to score against us. I mean, the amount that went wrong that day, you'd have thought the players would go out there. Moyes would have told the players, we need to make amends for that game. You need to go out there and give it your all, because we're going to go out there and do similar to what we did last week. Then we don't have a leg to stand on. I didn't get that sort of sense from the players that they were making amends for the Arsenal game, which is what they should have done, really. It was a flat performance. I know the City ground is quite a hard place to go to, but, let's be honest, Forest are very low down there. Apart from Awani, they haven't really got too many, star players. And Morgan Gibbs-White maybe is one of them, but how we've come away 2-0 down is just incredible to me. Especially as well, Antonio coming in before the game, which I thought was a massive boost for us. You had Ward-Prowse in there. The team was more than good enough to pick up 3 points. Unfortunately, we just looks a bit flat. We didn't look up for it. The defence, again, weak. Again, just gets bullied off the ball all the time. Zuma looks past it, hasn't got the legs for it. The defence is the main concern for me. I know we're not scoring too many goals, but it's hard to score goals, but it's not hard to defend the way that we're defending at the moment. We're giving up goals for free. We're allowing teams to play inside the box. Areola seems like the only reason at the moment why we're even not conceding too many goals. So, yeah, mate, it's for me, it was a very, very flat performance. I'm not exactly sure. I'll probably get onto it later what Moyes' comments were about him thinking that we played quite well in the final third. I'm not really sure what I don't know if he's just forced to say that or if that's his genuine belief. But no, I don't think we played well at all, mate. Incredibly flat game, and doesn't give me any confidence going into the next few weeks.
No, I don't blame you. I feel very much the same, and I think pretty much everyone watching this will feel the same. I don't think there's many fans that have got much confidence about this side at the moment and the manager. As you touched on there, you look at that team, the lineup. I was going to ask you actually what your thoughts were on the lineup. Obviously, you kind of answered that. I thought it was like, in my opinion, I actually thought a decent lineup, excluding the defence. You looked at the front three, you think, yes, he's dropped Thomas Souček, which was desperately needed. Gave Calvin Phillips his start next to Edson Alvarez, which we wanted to see. James Ward-Prowse in there as well. I thought, I was happy with the lineup aside from the centre-back partnership. Like you touched on, we will talk about David Moyes, of course. I think we have to. That's the big talking point. It's something that's just not going to go away, and we can't avoid it. And we will talk about that a bit more in a second. But you're right in what you're saying. Because I think we need to touch a little bit on David Moyes, not so much for his interview, but in terms of, but it kind of ties in with that. I get the feeling with him, like when you talk about the centre-back partnership, you've got Zuma and Agurd. I don't think there would be many West Ham fans, people that understand the club and been watching us game in, game out for obviously every week, would have selected Zuma and Agurd. They just wouldn't have picked them. It's almost like David Moyes has a total detachment from reality. I mean, I talked about this yesterday actually on a video. We always say, oh God, he's so stubborn. He's such a stubborn manager. He won't change his views. I'm actually starting to doubt that a little bit actually, and starting to think he's actually just a bit detached. He doesn't seem to see what's actually happening. Like he takes a long time to make decisions. For instance, let's just talk about the transfer window. Obviously, we want to talk about the game in a sec, but we talk about the transfer window as a prime example of that. David Moyes didn't want Zaha, didn't want a winger. He said no to that option. He said no, he didn't want Broja. He felt that we've got enough. He felt like he's got enough options. What are you talking about? Like, if that's your view, then you've got a complete detachment from actual reality. Like, and that I feel like sometimes we see that in his team selections. Like, I'm going to pick Zuma and a Gerd. Why? Why would you do that? Why would you pick a centre back partnership that just shipped in 6 goals? And then 3 goals ahead, a week before against Manchester United. They've just conceded 9 goals in 2 games, looking all over the place. A Gerd looks disinterested. You've got Zuma, as you say, can't even walk, let alone run. But yet he picks them. It's very frustrating. We'll talk about let's talk about Moyes in a second, though. But the game itself, really poor. What did you make of the first goal, mate? You already touched on it a little bit with a Gerd. I watched it obviously yesterday, and I'm looked back this morning at it. Far too easy, in my opinion, to be shoved off the ball, knocked off the ball. This is the £30 million Premier League defender, one that apparently Moyes wanted for a long, long time and was banging on the door to get him through the club. I think he's starting to flatter to deceive a little bit. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I still think he's got elements about him that I like. And, don't get me wrong, when he first came in, I thought he was mustard, mate. I mean, he looks incredible. He was very, very quick, very good at tracking back. I'm not really sure what's gone wrong for him at West Ham at the moment, but both himself and Zuma, maybe it's because they're too safe. I mean, you concede 6 goals and play the next game. What am I going to get dropped for? Do you know what I mean? If I concede 6 goals at home to Arsenal, who, no disrespect, Arsenal are a good side, but 6-0, mate. I mean, Burnley lost 5, This is what we're talking about.
Burnley are going down. Do you know what I mean?
And Burnley are going down. Burnley are in a very, very tough run at the moment. We're supposedly challenging for Europe. We lost 6-0 at home to our London rivals. And let's be honest, there's a little bit of a rivalry going on with Arsenal and sort of the Rice situation itself. So if I'm a Gerd and Zuma and I'm like, I've just shipped 6 goals at home and my name's still on that team sheet. All right then, cool. What have we got to play for? I'm not playing for the shirt anymore, am I? Because if I'm fucking conceding 6 goals, then what have we got to play for? You know what I mean?
Do you get the feeling, Riley?
Then maybe be like, oh Jesus, maybe I actually played really bloody bad that game. Maybe I should actually step up my level a little bit. But if I'm getting picked after a 6-0 defeat, I mean, there was only 2 changes, I believe, and it was Phillips and Antonio. I don't think Phillips started the Arsenal game, did he?
So that's right. Yeah, that's correct. That was the 2 differences in that game. I agree. I actually think there's a case when we talk about a Gerd and we talk about. So I actually think this for a lot of players now. And I don't like the term "lost the dressing room." I don't think that's quite a harsh statement. That's almost to say like the players have really turned against you, don't want to listen. I don't think the players dislike Moyes. I even as me as a fan, I don't dislike Moyes. I mean, I know there will be fans that do, and they're absolutely entitled to feel that way. Personally, for me, I respect him. I think he's been brilliant for West Ham. He has been brilliant for West Ham. There's no 2 ways about it. He's been what we needed. He got us away from relegation, got us fighting in European places. We've won a trophy. We can't knock that. It's been brilliant. But I get the feeling now, more than ever, that the players have just lost belief in him. I don't think they're really believing in what he's saying in that dressing room when he's saying to them, "This is what we're going to go and do. We're going to go and defend for 80 minutes. We're going to try and play the counter-attack. We're going to try and nick a corner." And I think a lot of those players are thinking, I can't be bothered with this anymore. I get the feeling they're getting a bit exhausted with it, much like the fans are. I think the fans are getting tired of the same old tactics. It's just tiring, isn't it? It's the same old method. It's the same tactics, the same formation, pretty much the same players. He made a few changes yesterday, like you say, a couple of changes, and they were welcome. But again, we talked about defence needed changing. He didn't do that. But, this has been week in, week out. I mean, he played the same team against Arsenal, the one that just got battered by Man United 3-0. All right, we didn't play that badly against Man United, to be fair, but we still lost 3-0. I just get the feeling that that's what's happened. I think the fans had lost belief quite a long while ago, I think, in Moyes. But I think the players are starting to. And I wonder, when you look at a Gerd, I think he's the epitome of that. Like you say, he started at West Ham. He was very, some of the challenges he was making were exceptional. He was always had a bit of a mistake in him. I know that. But I just get the feeling when you see his kind of attempts now going. I mean, you look at that, the goal against Manchester United, is it Højbjerg, when he went round him, he looked like he wasn't really interested. Just stepped round him, he smacked it in. Gerd looked disinterested. He looked disinterested yesterday, that first goal. He just shrugged off the ball. I just get the feeling that I think the players are mentally a bit done. I think they're a bit fed up. probably getting a bit bored going into training, hearing the same stuff. And I'm not being rude. We'll talk about Moyes a little bit more in a second. But you talk about his press conference and how some of the comments you listen to, and you think if you're listening to that kind of attitude at training as well, it must be a little bit. God, do I have to keep listening to this? It's quite painful to listen to. Quick about touch on the game though, mate. Obviously, first goal, as we said, was a bit of a crap one. And then Phillips' red card. I've got to say, mate, I mean, I know Phillips has had a bit of a torrid time to be at West Ham, but I thought that was a bloody harsh red card. In fact, I don't understand why it was given as a second yellow. What was your thoughts on it?
Well, I mean, the geezer can't catch a break, can he, really? I mean, he's basically led, his passes have led to 2 goals, essentially. Like, no matter how you actually put down whose fault it was his pass that sort of led to both of the goals. So I do feel quite sorry for him, to be honest. And I think he's a quality player. And, the first yellow card was a bit harsh. And then the second one, I thought, come on, that's just a 50-50. Like, it's very, get the blue card out at least, at least get the blue card out.
Get the blue out.
Get the old blue out. Get the old blue card out. And then, we're all good. But no, I thought it was incredibly harsh for him to get a yellow. But it seems like one of those situations, isn't it, where, he's just not really, I mean, he's a player that's not got confidence as it is. I mean, Pep's already touched on it that, he didn't really give him the minutes. I think that at his time there, Pep sort of called him unfit at times.
Yeah,
and
overweight, didn't he? He was overweight.
Yeah, I think his actual words might have been overweight. And I think there was a bit of a meme going around of, Calvin Phillips being a bit overweight. So I think any player would have their confidence knocked for that. And because he hasn't hit the ground running at West Ham, he's probably not very confident there either. So I think, just give him a bit of a run of games. Hopefully he'll pick up his confidence and he'll be able to get back in, because I do believe that he can have a good end to the season. But I do think it's been a very tough time for him. He's got to pick himself up, basically.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with that. And I'd like to think it'll come good for him. I felt sorry for him yesterday. It just feels like a bit of a culmination for him, as you say. Just such a bad start, and I felt for him in that. I really did, because that was not a yellow card. That was a terrible, terrible decision in my opinion. But look, these things happen. And then of course they scored their second goal. Another bit of shambolic defending by West Ham. And really, we were lucky. You touched on it yesterday. We were lucky it was only 2-0. Yes, they could have been 4-0 quite easily. In fact, I think there was a goal disallowed, wasn't there, for a foul on Areola, if I remember rightly. And I think...
Oh, yeah. I mean, that
was nothing wrong with it.
That was pathetic as it was, though. The defending for that one was horrendous.
It was horrendous. And there was no foul on the keeper, was there? Like, as far as I'm concerned, like, nothing... There was a goal. There was nothing... That was a goal. Like, so...
Yeah, I think it was a bit harsh on them, to be honest. But, I mean... we scored. They scored late in the game, and they scored late in the second half. I mean, again, it just shows you that when the mentality is not really up there at the moment. What was it? The 45th plus third minute we conceded in the first half. The worst time to concede. You got to be switched on, and the manner in which we conceded as well. They looked like they were in the dressing room having their oranges. Half time in already. Do you know what I mean? It didn't. They weren't switched on enough. You've got to fight for every single minute. I've never got this whole this thing where it's like the 35th or the 45th minute, and you're just sort of trying to coast into the second half. Like, you've just got to be switched on for every minute of the football match.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense to me why you'd be like, well, it's 40th minute. We're not going to concede, are we? Like, it just doesn't happen, does it? Like, most teams concede in that time period. That's when you really need to switch on and make sure that you're not making those mistakes. And we could see 2 goals from it. It just shows you the level of concentration, the level of passion, where the team's at the moment, to concede a goal that late in the game and not be fighting for, to get into that half time 0-0 and try and pick it up from there. It just shows you exactly where we're at. Yeah,
there's a real lack of mental strength in this side at the moment. It really is, and it's just evident. We look very much like a rabbit in the headlights at the moment, and to go to a side like Nottingham Forest, not good enough, mate. Is it?
I don't want to keep talking about the Arsenal game, but did you see any player on that pitch berate any other player?
Or this is what
down and go back to the centre circle to kick off again.
Yeah, it's. I don't see any leadership in the side. I just don't. No, I don't see any. I don't understand why Zuma's the captain. He's not a captain. Right. He doesn't. I've never seen him pull the team in. I don't see him rallying them. I don't see anything. I mean, I don't know. I don't get it. And again, that's another mark against Moyes' name. He's picked Zuma. everyone, I think all of us were a little bit baffled, really. Zuma the captain, okay. We didn't expect to see that one. Maybe give him a bit of a chance. And to be honest, we had a good start to the season, didn't we? We've got some good results early on, and you thought, okay, maybe he is pretty good captain. I'm not seeing much leadership, but maybe behind the scenes he's a good captain. But we're seeing here that actually he's not, because we're not seeing any rallying at all. I mean, as you say, the Arsenal game, you just had the heads were all down, including our captain, after every goal. It's not good enough. I think that's a key factor, actually, is why we're struggling. Before we quickly go on to David Moyes talk then, because we do need to talk about David Moyes and his position at the club. Man of the match yesterday, I'm guessing we're probably going to have the same player for this, but go on, who would you say that came out of that game with any real credit?
I wasn't really planning on giving a man of the match, for honest, mate, after that performance.
I'll get your second. Areola, yeah. I think Areola, I think he's very good. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. That's all I can really. I wasn't really planning on giving one, but if I had to, then probably Areola, because he's definitely saved us quite a few goals this season. And
he did all right. He put some good.
Yeah.
I know this. Disallowed, he could have done better with, but overall he was good. He was okay. I feel for him, really. I actually feel for him. That must be really painful. What's that now? What are we going to see? 3, 6, 9. That's 11 goals in 3 games. I mean, it's just horrendous, isn't it? Horrendous turn of events at the club at the moment. It really is bad. Right, let's talk about David Moyes. I mean, the bloody... I hate the Moyes in, Moyes out thing. I hate it. And the divide at the moment between the fan base is horrible because of it. Although I do feel like it's slightly probably even people that have probably been quite Moyes in are probably starting to get a little bit exhausted with it all a little bit. But, people are absolutely entitled to their opinion. I don't think it's fair on fans to ask people if Moyes in, Moyes out, because you don't know who the alternative. That's the problem. Like, if they said to you, right, we've got this manager lined up, what do you think? But, regardless of that, as I've touched on before, I think we're starting to see a change, though, now. It feels different. It doesn't feel like just a bit of a bad run of form. I think we're just seeing such a loss of belief now with these players. I think the players are a bit exhausted with it, Riley. I think one thing we need to bear in mind, the press as well, the press are doing my head in regard to this Moyes situation, and David Moyes is a little bit as well, because David Moyes has come out and said numerous times, well, the fans haven't had it so good. The fans have never had it so bloody good, really. The club have been so brilliant. Look, you just won a trophy. They keep forgetting the fact that last season was horrendous. Like, we were in a relegation battle all season and we could have gone down. That seems to be just completely forgotten. They don't ever mention that. And he's not going to, is he, David Moyes? He's not going to highlight it. But the press ignore it as well. They just never mention it, that we had a bad season last season. And they also fail to forget that the season before that, we were awful from the turn of the year. When we that's the season we finished in the Europa League. We got to the semi-finals. If you remember, we got to the semi-finals of the Europa League, obviously lost, but our Premier League form was horrific. We were pushing at that point. It was the turn of the year turned 2022. At that point, we were challenging top 4. We were kind of in and amongst that conversation, and you thought, oh wow, what a brilliant time for the club. And all of a sudden, our league form dipped big time. And then, but because we had that Europa League campaign going on where we were doing well, it masked what was going on in the Premier League. So effectively, again, much like what happened last season, they were just going, well, West Ham are doing so well. They're doing so well. The fans have never had it so good. But we went from like top 4 contenders to just scraping 7th, where we got the Conference League qualification. So you could argue, really, we were bad from that point. Beginning of 2022. The following season, which was Declan Rice's last season, obviously we got into the Europa League, Europa Conference League, and we were awful from day one. We lost to Man City, we lost to Forest again, another crap performance. We scraped. Well, it was a bit unfortunate, but we lost. And then we had a really bad season where we only just about pulled away from the relegation zone with about 7 or 8 games to go, and got safe. But then again, bad season, but it was masked by our European success. And this season, we've started well. Credit to David. We did start well, and thank God we did, because otherwise we'd be looking at relegation. I think we would be with this form at the moment. But our form's tailed off again. We've gone back to where we were. So actually, when they keep talking about fans have not had it so good, it's been so brilliant, it's been so amazing, it hasn't actually been good for a long time. We've had some really pretty poor spells, but we're just because our European football always seems to mask the actual issues that are going on at the club. I mean, as I've said earlier, mate, this is just my point of view, Riley, and you're entitled to yours, of course. I'm not speaking for you, and everyone's entitled to their opinion. I'm always grateful to David Moyes, really am. I think he's been an excellent manager for West Ham, because he has done what we needed to do. He stabilised us. He got us into the, Europe, and it's been, let's be honest, created some great memories. But I get the feeling that his time's coming to an end now. I really do. I think like the fans have not only turned, but I think the players are starting to becoming a bit exhausted. Where are you standing on the whole Moyes thing and this new deal with his? Are you feeling that that's now out the question, or do you think there's still a chance he could turn this, or where are you sitting on it, mate?
Well, I mean, he does say some questionable things, and I think, has Eddie Howe ever come out of Newcastle and said the fans have never had it so good? Has De Zerbi ever come out of Brighton? Brighton, for Christ's sake! I mean, come on now. Like, no disrespect to Brighton whatsoever, but they literally just appeared in the top six. Just appeared. No, like they got brilliant recruitment systems, but they're a selling club who don't buy big names, who stumble upon these brilliant talents because they're support networks, but they don't spend a lot of money. They've literally just stumbled into the top six. They barely spent a penny. They've stumbled into the top six. They've stumbled onto a manager who's playing this great brand of football. Has anyone ever said, oh, well, the Brighton fans, they should be bloody grateful, shouldn't they, for what they've got? And fair enough, maybe they are. But, I've seen a fair few Brighton fans complaining about, the performances and not signing this player and not doing this. And, when they were having their really bad run in Europe, when it looked like they might go out the group stages, they were all complaining. Didn't see one single person come out and say, well, they never had it so good, have they? So I don't know why we've got this thing where it's like, well, you've got to be grateful for what you've had in the past. Like, sod what you've got now. You've got to be grateful for what you've had in the past. I don't really get that. Unfortunately, in football, last season is last season.
Oh yeah.
You can put it on your CV, and we'll definitely love the memories. But last season is last season. This season. I can only look at it from this season. My only thought process on it is we must have done probably about 15, 20 videos, talking about David Moyes. Last season, midway through the season, I think we wanted him gone. Was it World Cup last season? Yeah, right. It feels like miles away, but World Cup last season, that's when we wanted him gone, wasn't it? We said, look,
well, it was the perfect time, wasn't it? It was that we were all going like, you've got the perfect time, get the manager out now, get a new one in. You've got a month to get him integrated with it, but they didn't take it, of course. Yeah.
But would you say, hindsight's 2020? Would you say that keeping him was the right decision or the wrong decision? Because we've been here before, mate. We have, and obviously, he went on to win a trophy. He signed some brilliant players. He brought Steindl in. I was actually quite excited by the start of the season. So, were we wrong back then to want him to be sacked? I mean, we might be right now, but were we wrong back then to want him to have been gone?
I mean, that's a really good argument because, of course, or good point, should I say, because you were right, because we went on to win a trophy. So, I mean, the argument, obviously, on the other side would be, well, with the squad that we had and the tournament we were in and the teams that we were playing, we should have done well anyway. I mean, I think, apart from the last couple of games, Alkmaar and Fiorentina are probably the challenging ones. But apart from that, really, I think most managers would have taken us, but I don't want to take that away from Moyes because it was still a great achievement. He seems to get Europe pretty spot on, to be fair to him. I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, maybe there is that argument. And as you say, that we've got the Europa League coming up again. It kicks off next month. And who's to say that David Moyes won't do very well and get us playing well for that? I mean, it's hard to see at the moment, to be fair. It's very difficult to envision us now turning this around and playing very well. I mean, I still think a lot of managers would have done well with the squad that we had. I think that's the biggest problem that Moyes has got with his comments. That, like this whole West Ham fans have never had it so good. He's talking as if he's in charge of Luton or someone like that he's got them into Europe and going, look, I've got a really basic squad here. I've got hardly any resource. I've got no money. I've got nothing really. I've got a championship side with a couple of League One players thrown into it and we're bloody in top six. Then he'd have a really good point to say, look, stop marrying at me. I'm doing my best with this is not Luton Town. This is what you're talking about, a club that's got the second biggest stadium in the country. You've spent something around about £500 million-ish, whatever it is, £400 million on players. You've got Mohamed Kudus, you've got bloody Lucas Paqueta, you've got Jared Bowen, you've got Edson Alvarez, you've got a top draw squad of players. You've got money to spend. The club was saying to you, we can bring you Luis Zaha, wasn't it? Bring you into the club. Wilfred Zaha. You've got let's stop painting this picture that you're at some pauper club and that's what he kind of keeps implying. That, these fans, West Ham fans expect more because we should be getting more now. And please get this straight. I think as well, when they keep saying West Ham fans expect good, what do they expect to be in the top four, be challenging for the league title? No, but we want to see some hunger and some, drive that we want to push on and do well. That I can't stand this sort of attitude of like, well, accept it, get over it kind of attitude. And that's kind of what we got yesterday, wasn't it, from Moyes? I've got a couple of quotes from here quickly. I mean, I just jotted them down. He said, fans have never had it so good. And also losing to Forest isn't a sin. I don't know what people are moaning about. It's like, I don't want to hear that. Like,
weird.
Would, Ange at Spurs say that? Going out of a go, I'll get over it. Well, lose a Spurs. What sort of attitude is that? Would Arteta say that about Arsenal? No. Would Ten Hag say that? No. Like, stop putting us in this bracket of being like as if you're in charge of fucking Southend and you can't believe. And we just lost to a Premier League side. It's not. It really. That's what I think fans are getting very frustrated. And dare I say it, Riley, I'm starting to feel that David Moyes is going down the path of Allardyce now with these comments. He's kind of going up against the fans a lot, and he's being quite arrogant actually in what he's saying. And I think as well, that's one thing that's really holding Moyes back, and it always has done, is that he really doesn't seem to get it, does he, West Ham? He doesn't quite, the penny's just not dropped with him about what the club's about. He seems to still act like he's like at this sort of small-time club, and, I'm just trying to get you over the line. I've always been willing to accept David Moyes' style of football a little bit, as long as it works. But when it doesn't work, that's when it becomes very frustrating. And it hasn't been working for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that you have to remember, mate, that a lot of people sort of say, like, oh, where did West Ham get this divine right to be in Europe sort of thing? Let's not forget our home, the place that we've been at, for all of our lives, has been ripped away from us in 2015 with the promise of Champions League, Europa League, better squad, better facilities. That promise was made to us in 2015, 2016. So if clubs are going to come at us and say, well, what more do West Ham want? What more do West Ham want? We were promised it. We were literally told, you're going to get Champions League, you're going to get Europa League. We didn't just wake up one day and think, oh, do you know what? I think we deserve Champions League, Europa League. We literally got told we're going to kick on, we're going to move on, we're going to spend money, and we're going to get Europa League, Champions League, and this is going to be our next step up. That is literally what we got fucking told by the owners of our football club. It's what's happened. It's taken 4 years for it to actually materialise because the managers and the infrastructure wasn't good enough. Finally Moyes has been able to do it, and all of a sudden, because we've got it, and we're a bit like, we're very grateful for the football, but also the football's fucking shit. And now all of a sudden, we're like, well, what more do they want? They've got Europa League. They should be happy watching there being miserable for 4 years straight, basically. I mean, Moyes' first season back in the lockdown football was brilliant. And then post that, we haven't really played good football. No, we just haven't. And are we in a situation here? Obviously, it's very, very, very different. But Arsene Wenger at Arsenal, very different situation. Like, I'm not trying to compare it at all. But Arsenal fans respected Arsene Wenger for his legacy, but they still recognise it was his time to go.
Yes,
can we respect David Moyes and admit that yes, he's done very well for us, and still want him to leave? I don't really get this whole thing of me saying, oh, David Moyes has to go, and everyone being, well, he got us Europe. It's like, okay, yeah, and I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, exactly. He's got us Europe, right? With a squad of he's got Europe with a squad of players that are capable, you know what I mean? Like an exceptionally good sort of players. As you say, it's not as if he's dealing with a really, really bang average squad of players and way overachieving. And then you go, well, then you have the argument. A lot of managers with this squad of players would do well. I think that's the feeling. I totally agree with you, mate. I'm absolutely in agreement with it. And you're right. Like, I'm tired of listening to these pundits, these Jamie Carragher's and Gary Neville's coming out. What annoys me with these people, right? If you spoke to them, right, if I was speaking to Gary Neville now and I said to him, Gary, should Brighton be dreaming of top six football and dreaming of European football and dreaming of maybe one day breaking the Champions League? His response would be, yeah, of course they should be. That's what football's all about. That's what, you should be striving, you should be dreaming. But yet when the fans moan and say, oh, we want to go and push on, it's almost like, oh, get back in your box. You've had it good, go away. It's like, why can't we want more? Why have we got to be kept in the box? Why? It's almost like they contradict themselves all the time. Alan Shearer does it. You know what I mean? The second they see us lose, go, what are they moaning about? What are fans moaning about? Oh, my God, what do they want? What do they want? Well, we want to do well. Well, yeah. It really annoys me. And I don't think us fans are asking for too much. And we're not even asking for, that's the thing. They miss that. They seem to think we're all going, well, we should be challenging for the title or Champions League spaces. Well, I'm not necessarily saying that. I'm just saying I want to see some bloody hunger, like some drive and just eagerness to want to do well. And at the moment, I just don't see it at West Ham. I think the January transfer window was a prime example of it. Just this lackluster attitude to everything. Oh yeah, well we could have gone for him. Nah, Brozier, yeah, we could have got him on loan, but we went nah. We got Antonio coming back, but what sort of ambition is that? Do you know what I mean? Just get real. I'm just tired of it, and I think the players are tired of it. The fans are certainly tired of it, mate. And I think the writing's started to come on the wall now. I mean, it's going to take a real big turn of events for Moyes to get this around and get the fans back on side. And I think the fans have gone anyway. The fans have been gone for quite a long time with David Moyes. I think as a majority anyway, I think the fans are becoming quite exhausted. And the club have got to wake up to it, because that's the other thing, that's worrying, is the ownership at this football club, mate. That's what worries me more actually than Moyes, is because I think they're just so detached from what's going on. They don't seem to have an understanding. They don't get it. They just do not get it. Final thoughts on it then, mate. Look, bad result. We've got Brentford at home coming up. I don't think that anyone's going to be going to have any confidence. My gut feeling is, though, with David Moyes, is just my gut. I think he'll see the season out. I think he will. I don't think they'll sack him before the end of the season. I think we will see, because like you just said, I think they'll look at the Europa League and think maybe what you're thinking. Look, we're safe. We're not going to get relegated. We've done this before. We had a bad season, but we won a trophy. Maybe this season will happen again. Have another crappy Premier League season. Don't get anywhere, but go on and bloody win the Europa League. Maybe that's what they're thinking now, because I don't know about you, mate. Are your hopes of top 7, top 6, are they dwindling now? Or do you still think we're in with a hunt?
No, I mean, they are dwindling a little bit. And I also think that it just gives Moyes another mandate for another season. It's like, well, we've just slogged it out for another season. It's been shit football, but he did get Europa League in, didn't he? So I guess we're just, it just gives him that little bit. At least if he didn't get Europa League, the owners might be able to sit there and look and say, well, last season we almost got relegated. The next season we couldn't really kick on and get Europe. I think realistically you've not really done well enough, so we're going to have to bring in a new manager. But in my eyes, I think this right now, at this point in time, this is the perfect time to get someone else in, because we're not going to get relegated. It's just not going to happen. There are so many worse. Even if we go on like a 10, 15 game winless run, I cannot see us getting relegated with the teams down there. So you bring in a new manager, and the rest of this season we just get back to playing some good football. Even if we don't get top 8 this season, and then we can. I mean, look at what teams have been able to achieve when they haven't had European football. Look at how Newcastle did with that European football. Brighton, how will they do that European football? A season without European football is not going to kill us. It's not going to mean it's over now. We can't get it again. We've got it 4 years in a row. Now that we haven't got it for a season, that's it. We're finished. We can easily bring in a new manager as of right now, give him to the end of the season. Next season, kick on and see what we can do. And even if we don't get Europa League next season, it's got to be a project. I don't see David Moyes' project. I don't see the direction he's taking to it. I'm much happier to have a manager who's not getting the same accolades that Moyes is getting, but I can see the direction that he's going in, and it's a positive direction, as opposed to someone like Moyes, where I'm just sort of I'm just waiting for it to end. Do you know what I mean? I'm waiting for Europa League to end. I'm waiting for the, like I say, he's got the mandate at the moment to be able to manage with the stuff that he's done. But, with that aside, it's not inspiring football. I don't think he speaks well of himself. He does speak with arrogance, which he has kind of earned. I mean, he's one of the longest serving managers in the Premier League, but arrogance is not going to get you anywhere with the fans, especially when you're getting performances. I mean, losing to Forest isn't a sin. That's just it. It's so far away from what you want to hear from a manager. Basically saying, well, yeah, we lost, but get off our backs a little bit. It's Forest. It's not like it's Luton. It's like, well, yeah, but they are fucking almost bottom of the league. I don't know. I just think his press conferences are uninspiring. He never comes out and bashes the players or shows a bit of passion or anything, really. So, yeah, it's a sad one, but I think probably he has to go at this point.
I think he's going to struggle. I think he'll struggle to retain his job in the long term. It is, at the end of the day, for him to turn this around now, it's going to take a lot. And at the moment, I'm not seeing the belief amongst the players, and I think that's the biggest problem he's got. I don't think it means he's lost the dressing room. I hate that phrase, but I think he's going to struggle to inspire them now. They look like lost a little bit, this team, and it's a worry, mate. It's a worry. This is going to be a big topic. It's going to be talking about for a long time. We're going to try not to do too many videos talking about David Moyes and his future, because it just feels like a never-ending conversation, doesn't it? But we will obviously try and do it when it's needed and talk about other things as well. We've got lots of other bits and pieces coming up, I'm sure, this week, other videos and whatnot. Obviously, we've got to start preparing for the next game, Brentford, which is a big game, mate, you know, back at London Stadium. And look, it's a hard one to be positive about today. It's really hard. It's been a really bad run of form. The talk about David Moyes' future is going to be sort of what's going to be dominating all week, let's be honest. But look, mate, let's try and keep our heads up and fingers crossed. You know, we've got some things to look forward to. We still have got the Europa League this season, but yeah, let's be honest, it's very hard to get up for these things.